This is what's left of the Oak Hollow Mall in High Point, North Carolina. The mall opened in 1995 and operated for nearly 22 years, but faced a number of challenges which resulted in its demise. Today, the mall sits vacant and abandoned. So what happened? In this video, I intend to look back at the history of the mall and determine how a shopping center that once showed promise and potential ultimately died.
All that glitters, all that twinkles, all that shines, all those presents. It's that special time of year again, so come enjoy your holiday shopping where there's always something new under the tree at Oak Hollow Mall. If you want convenience, you'll find everything you need. If you need late hours to shop, then shop with us. And if you wish for lots of extras, make all your holiday dreams come true at Oak Hollow Mall. Bring your children to Oak Hollow Mall to get their photo taken with Santa and get a free pair of Annabelle's Wish inflatable antlers. Come shop where there's always something new under the tree at Oak Hollow Mall.
Oak Hollow always had a controversial presence in High Point, even before it was built. In 1989, 6 years before the mall first opened, CBL & Associates Properties, a developer based in Chattanooga, proposed a mall that would replace the older 1970s-era Westchester Mall. However, the High Point City Council rejected their proposal due to environmental concerns. The mall was to be close to nearby Oak Hollow Lake, and the council was worried that the lake would be harmfully impacted by stormwater runoff. Later, in 1993, they proposed a revised version of the mall to the city council. This proposal was approved, and construction on the enormous 1.3 million square foot mall began in April of 1994. The total construction cost was $75 million, and the mall first opened its doors on August 9, 1995. The response was mixed. On one hand, the mall brought many new retail opportunities to the city. The mall had 5 anchors: Belk, Dillard's, Sears, JCPenney's, and Goody's, and even had a movie theater. Additional outparcels such as Target, Circuit City, Barnes & Noble, and Golden Corral were located around the mall and made the mall look more appealing. The expectations by the company were high that the mall would be a retail hub in the area. However, there were also doubts about the mall. Oak Hollow did not have a Macy's, and its location put it in direct competition with surrounding retail centers like Hanes Mall, Four Seasons, and the Friendly Center. Some also believed that the mall was simply too big to suit the shopping needs of High Point. Still, the mall pushed through its first decade with relatively few setbacks. It was in 2005, however, when things would begin to take a turn for the worse for Oak Hollow. Goody's department store was the first anchor to leave Oak Hollow in August of 2005, performing too poorly to remain open. It was quickly replaced by Steve & Barry's. Although the closure of Goody's shone an ominous light on the future of Oak Hollow, it didn't come as a surprise, as the entire company was struggling to stay afloat. Soon after, however, Oak Hollow would receive its first major blow when the Friendly Center underwent a massive expansion in October of 2006, which put even more pressure on the mall. Furthermore, Oak Hollow lost both Circuit City and Steve & Barry's in the late 2008. Dillard's also shuttered their second floor in 2009. This was not a good look for the mall, especially following the economic recession at the time. Even though the Circuit City was repurposed by High Point University, and the former Steve & Barry's served as Sears' new call center, things would continue to go downhill for the mall. CBL & Associates were considering selling Oak Hollow during this time, and in February 2011, the mall was about to change forever.
Thank you, Laney. Well, a major announcement from High Point University regarding a long-rumored purchase. The university is buying Oak Hollow Mall. Officials with the school announced that purchase today. CBL & Associates will continue to manage the day-to-day operations. And the school says for the time being, mall employees and customers won't see any major changes.
During this period of time is going to evaluate potential long-term uses for the mall to try to determine something, to see if there might be a possibility of a different use, something that's in the best interest and serves as a community good.
JCPenney was the latest anchor store to leave Oak Hollow Mall. Belk is also considering its options.
CBL & Associates first listed the mall in April of 2010 for $15 million, and on February 24, 2011, Oak Hollow's fate was sealed when High Point University announced its purchase of the mall for $9 million, about half of the asking price, and less than 1/8 of the original construction price. The university had long-term plans to repurpose the building as an education center, but let CBL & Associates continue to manage the mall as a retail center for the time being. Things did not get better for the mall though, as it lost its second anchor, JCPenney's, in June 2011. Additionally, Belk expressed interest in moving to its High Point location away from the mall in February 2011, and it was announced that another anchor, Sears, was to close in April 2012. Liquidation sales subsequently took place at Sears during its final 2 months of operation. Oak Hollow also lost its Golden Corral at this time. While not the biggest blow against the mall, it's certainly a testament to how far Oak Hollow had fallen. The following October, the mall lost its Regal Cinemas as well, arguably one of Oak Hollow's advantages over its competitors, and finally lost its Belk to the nearby Palladium Place 2 years later. At this point, it's pretty clear that things were snowballing out of control for the mall. With only 2 functioning anchors left, it was only a matter of time until the mall just couldn't survive. By the end of 2014, there were very few stores remaining inside of the mall. The food court only had 2 restaurants. High Point University had, at this point, owned the mall for nearly 4 years, but had kept the mall open as a retail center. A High Point University spokeswoman, Pam Haynes, wrote in an email to the Winston-Salem Journal that Oak Hollow Mall continues to operate as a retail center. There are no immediate plans to change the use of the property. The university donated the former JCPenney space as a community center to nonprofit organizations, but it was still rather bizarre that the university, which had long-term plans to repurpose the mall as an educational space, was continuing to operate the mall as a retail center. And for 2 years, the mall remained open in this dormant state. In November of 2016, it was finally announced that the Sears call center was scheduled to close by February of 2017. Unable to sustainably keep the mall open any longer, High Point University ultimately announced the closure of the mall in January of 2017. Oak Hollow's final day of operation was March 10, 2017. This was around the time that I learned of the mall's closure, and I actually visited the mall myself during its final week. And it was honestly pretty depressing. Clearly, the mall was only a shell of its former self. While the Dillard's Clearance Center, the Community Center, and several outparcels were to remain open after the mall shut down, the closure of Sears Call Center was the final nail in the coffin for Oak Hollow. In a time when indoor shopping malls are collectively struggling, in addition to facing fierce competition, the mall was simply not able to survive. It really was never meant to be. There were too many factors that contributed to the death of the mall. The developers had high hopes for Oak Hollow when it was first conceived, but now CBL & Associates have gone bankrupt themselves. So don't be surprised if you see this video in the near future. Although a number of events have been held at the community center after the death of the mall, and somehow the Dillard's is still open, though who knows how long that will last, I have to imagine that the pandemic has severely impacted the remaining functional parts of the mall. High Point University has long planned for their use of the property, but only time will tell what lies ahead for Oak Hollow.